Hello. So, today we're going to talk about gaslighting. What is gaslighting and examples of it, as well as what you can do to help you not believe in the gaslighting when it's happening. So, as always, I'm Lise Colucci, one of the life coaches at queenbeing.com, and let's just start. So, gaslighting. Gaslighting, what is it? It is when a manipulation tactic used by somebody to make somebody else question their own reality. That's the basic gist of it. It's a term used to describe twisted manipulation that makes a person doubt, question, disbelieve, or have any like non-reality feelings about their own experience, their own reality. Hey, Jack, I'm glad you're here. Let's see examples of gaslighting. Let's just go right into it. Gaslighting. If you've been around the narcissist awareness world, you know this term, right? So let's just talk about what it is. What are we saying here? I was just asking if we could have another like to unpack. Yes, we can do that. Let's talk a little bit about that after the gaslight. It's all related, right? But yeah, let's talk a little bit about talk about there at the end. If you could ask me some questions, Jack, about that, and then either we'll get to it today or I can get to it next week. How's that? Um, so back to the gaslighting. Number one, your truth is twisted. I'm not gonna do numbers. I do them a lot. Your truth is twisted. You may here. Let me give you examples from each of these things, and I'll just go through some of the ways gaslighting can be. If you have examples of gaslighting, go ahead and add them to the chat, and I'll read them, and we will help people together. So your truth is twisted. Your experience of reality is twisted. What you believe is twisted. You're being made to think that your truth isn't real. That is one example. Why did you make that up? It might be an example of something they'd say. That's not how it happened. When you know that's how it happened, you even have witnesses as to that's how it's happened. Something happens and that's not how it happened, is what they say to you. Another thing that you might hear is, well, I don't want to hear it. You're too sensitive or you're jealous. You're just jealous. So your reality of somebody completely flirting with somebody else in front of you, or your reality of a narcissistic parent putting you down in front of other people, or anything like that, where your feelings get involved, your reactions come into play, and you're told you're too sensitive and you're just jealous, or one or the other, right? That is gaslighting. All right, it's invalidating, it's twisting your reality, and it's making you look like you did something wrong when you actually didn't. Everyone says whatever. You should look at that. So everyone knows you do this thing. You should really look at that. They're not only gaslighting, they're projecting. Usually the thing they're saying, like maybe they say everyone knows you can't be trusted. You should really look at that in yourself. Well, it's actually them that can't be trusted, right? And they know it, and they're projecting that onto you, which is a form of gaslighting. Projection is a form of gaslighting. It's trying to make you believe you're doing the thing they're doing, right? So other things, another example of gaslighting is our disputes to shift the blame. Blame shifting, right? I can't think of a good example here. Just blame shifting. You suddenly are saying sorry. Here's what you might be doing. You're saying sorry for something that you didn't do. And in the middle of saying sorry, you're going, wait, did I do the thing? You either believe you did the thing or you don't believe you did the thing. But either way, you're saying sorry, right? Or you're feeling guilty or you're feeling like it's your fault. So let me see what you guys are saying. Hello to everybody here. Hey, Belle. Haven't Uh, okay, you guys are talking. I'll just keep going. Lies, flat out, straight up lies that are said right to your face as if they are truths. That is a form of gaslighting, especially when it's coupled with this other stuff, right? Lies are one thing. And then lies to gaslight you to make you believe something. It's gaslighting, okay? Denial, even if they are caught. Ever seen that? I call that the kid in the cookie jar syndrome. You know, they got the hand in the cookie jar and you say, "Why are you stealing a cookie?" "I'm not." "Yeah, I didn't. I didn't take a cookie." Or denial when they're caught because they give you a half truth or they lie through omission. They leave pieces out. "I didn't actually steal the cookie. This cookie's still in the jar." "Well, no, you were going to steal the cookie. How do you know? Maybe my hand's just in the jar." "I wasn't gonna cheat. I wasn't flirting. I was just talking to someone." Left out the fact that they were talking to someone, giving texting phone numbers and, doing all this stuff that is right. So, yeah. Um, UNA says, "I no longer fall for gaslighting. I used to, no longer. Still doesn't make it easy. I'm going through it now, but it isn't easy." It really isn't easy, is it? Yeah. And so, okay, well, I said projecting, and that is a big one. They accuse you of the thing they do or they feel or the way they act. We talked about that. Another thing they might do to gaslight you is play the victim. So, say you're really hurt about something. I keep using cheating, so let's use something else. They are ruining a holiday by acting sour, by acting horrible. And you say, "Wow, I'm really hurt that you were so upset today and that like I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to help. It seems like you were really angry all day. What was the matter?" "Well, you know." And then they go into victim mode. "Nobody even considered me. Nobody considered that or they do something like really awful to you and then they roll over and play victim. They turn it into something about them. It is hard to explain this one because when you're being gaslighted in this way, you're engaging in it, which is you're often engaging in it, which is then making the gaslighting go deeper and deeper and deeper. And by the time they're the full on victim, you're actually feeling bad for them, or you're feeling frustrated because you're not being heard, or you're feeling like it's so confusing and twisted and mixed up yeah, that one's tricky when they play the victim and it's so effective. It's so effective because it plays right to your empathy and it shuts it down. Because what are you going to say to someone when they've rolled over and played victim? Nothing. There's nothing you can do to re-engage and to get them to talk and to get them. You can't get them to talk anyway, right? In a real way. So yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there, Popper. Yeah, it's so those are some things they might do to gaslight you. Any other examples of ways that gaslighting happen from any of you guys? And I'll read them, but I'm going to keep going. I'm keeping this sort of tight and short today. So there are tons of other ways that people gaslight. Convincing you need something that you don't need. I mean, that's advertising, right? We're all being gaslit all the time by our entire society. But when we're talking about, so here's the thing, gaslighting is done to get you something of yourself that somebody else believe you should be giving. Does that make sense? It gets you to admit something. It gets you to buy something. It gets you to just in right? You're being convinced you need something you don't. You're being convinced you did something you didn't. It's manipulating your reality. So, I mean, anytime you feel your reality is manipulated, you most likely have been gaslighted by someone or something. Okay. And the thing is, we do it to ourselves when we leave. We make ourselves believe we're the ones who are wrong. We sit and tell ourselves terrible things about ourselves. "I'm awful. I am not lovable." All the things that we tell ourselves, we're just continuing the pattern of gaslighting. And that's a whole nother topic. And we can talk about self-gaslighting later. But you can see why we would. It's a conditioned response to having had it happen to us for so long and the beliefs that it sets up. But we'll go on with what a narcissist does when they gaslight. So here's some things you might feel. And sometimes it's hard to, okay, so with gaslighting, sometimes it's hard to know what's happening because once you engage with it, it's too late. You think you're in conversation. You think you're in debate. You think you're in an argument. You think your side has some weight. You think that that person's going to listen to you or that, you know what I mean? Like you're already engaged. It's too late to catch it as gaslighting. Or you catch it halfway through and go, "Oh, I did it again. I fell for the gaslighting." So let's talk about sometimes it's easier, often I think it's easier to just look at your own feelings and your own behaviors and your own actions to get a sense of what's happening with people around you and what people are doing in relation to you. Does that make sense? So if you're second guessing yourself in a conversation or an argument or whatever, you might be having someone gaslight you. If you think it's your fault and that you're too sensitive, okay, maybe you are. Okay, I don't want to say, well, some people could be too sensitive. In other words, take things too personal when it isn't personal. And that's something to work on. But if you are pretty much like, it's only in this relationship that you feel like you're too sensitive, it's only in this, circumstance, then it's probably not you, right? It's probably that you're being gaslighted. So you forget what you were upset over, even in the middle of an argument. You forget the topic. You get first of all, you're dissociating to deal with it, most likely. You're dealing with the toxic gaslighting and the projecting and the stonewalling and whatever the heck they're doing to you. Well, stonewalling is another form of gaslighting. It shuts it down, right? So, if that's happening and you forget, you've disassociated, you've forgotten, or you just are so confused because you're like, wait, weren't we talking about this? And then the tangential thing goes over there, and then it goes over there, and then it goes over there, and you can't follow it, and you've completely been by it and you forget. That's a good way to know you're probably being gaslighted. Let's see anything you guys are saying. You guys are saying hi to each other. Good. Okay. And again, if one word and I'm done, if there's any questions, please repeat them, okay? Because I tend to miss them when I scroll back. Okay, so confusion. That goes with what I just said. Feeling like you don't uh, appreciate any of the good that you have. Making excuses for them. So these are kind of signs you're in something toxic and you don't want to face it. But also, if you're making excuses for them, it's because you might be buying into the gaslighting, into the victim stance they're playing, into the empathizing with someone who doesn't have empathy. And that doesn't help you, right? So, okay, you don't tell anyone. You don't tell anyone. How many of us have had these relationships and we don't explain to anyone how twisted and confusing it is? We just sort of live with it, right? For a long time. You don't tell anyone about the way the arguments are, not even a therapist or I can remember going to a therapist and I was with her for a year and I finally said something and she said, "It's taken you this long to describe this situation to me." She actually got kind of mad at me. She was like, "I feel like you've been holding out an entire piece of your life." And I thought, first of all, now I think she doesn't get narcissism because I didn't know. You know what I mean? But I get where she's coming from because yeah, she could have done a lot more with it if she'd known what was actually going on. So or why I was as stressed out and anxious as I was, right? Okay. I didn't understand to be able to explain it exactly. We don't tell anyone because that's what I'm saying. I didn't even know how to understand it to explain it. I did. I could see it in other people or like, I've always felt like that's what advertising is. Right? It's trying to convince you that you need a particular brand of deodorant because it works so much better than all the others without trial and error. You just hook, line, and sinker believe it because of the way the advertising is. And I've always felt that. So I can see it, but I couldn't see it in the subtle ways a covert narcissist uses to gaslight, especially the victim thing and the playing on your empathy and the twisting of your truth. Right? Okay. Boy and a mom, Jack saying, I have an example. A little boy accused mom of lying on a promise to replace a broken popcorn popper. She didn't say, patience, we're saving up. She said, I never lie. Exactly, right? Okay. You can't make decisions, even simple ones, because the gaslighting makes you believe that you can't trust yourself. You don't know up from down, right from wrong, you know right from wrong, but you know what I mean in yourself. You don't know, you can't trust if what you're deciding is good for you. Well, first of all, usually that you're in something that isn't good for you and you can't get out. So why would you trust yourself on anything, right? And the gaslighting confuses you so much that you stop trusting your own thoughts. And it's very confusing. Yeah. Um, You can't do anything right. You feel like you can't do anything right. You're feeling like everything you do, you're just walking on eggshells even with yourself. Even when you're by yourself, I can remember, like, I would do something and I'd get really mad at myself because I did it wrong. And I'm like, "Wait, no one's here. Who cares?" Right? It's not, but it's real when it's happening, right? You feel like you're not good enough. Well, it makes sense why you would, right? You're frustrated. You have conversations that when you leave them, you feel frustrated, crazy, and the need to explain or justify yourself. Only you don't even know what it is you're defending. You don't even know what it is you're talking about. I can literally remember just collapsing on a floor, sobbing, unable to articulate any words that made any sense because I was like babbling. I didn't even know what I was. This man was the most skilled gaslighter I have ever seen and could manipulate things just around his little finger. In fact, his sister said of him, she said, "I can remember being a kid, we played a game, and it was called The Spider and the Fly. Guess who was the fly?" And I said, "I don't need to guess, because guess who's the fly now?" And she's like, "Ugh." And I said, "It's not even physical, is it?" And she said, "No, he's done this his whole life." So you see, it's the gaslighting. Anyway, you get frustrated, you feel insane, you feel crazy, you feel like pulling your hair out, you feel rage. Some people go into states of reactive abuse from gaslighting because you're not being heard. It's like the worst thing in the world to not be heard in a relationship, isn't it? When you're in the middle of it. So yeah, that sums up gaslighting. Uh, let's talk a bit about how to not believe it. Okay, let me look here what you guys are saying, and then we'll talk about that. Yes, master manipulators. Gaslighting is a huge part of okay, it's confusing, it's overwhelming. Okay. I was so gaslit that when my dad saw me crying and asked if my ex was making me cry, I said no. Yeah, exactly. The next day I told my ex what my dad said, and I saw a smirk on his face. You know, how many of us have been there, right? I'm sorry. It's yeah. Huffle Mom, do you understand how I got the extremes of sorry for breathing? Uh-huh. Sorry for breathing. It's yeah. Um, any tips for regrets when looking back on all the time wasted with a narcissist? Yes. So we'll take a quick diversion here. Um, you've only got from now forward, so stop wasting your time on them now. That's my biggest tip. If you stop wasting your future on dwelling on the past. You have to live in the moment and move through this moment in order to just keep making a future. It's going to frustrate you. It is frustrating. The worst thing they steal is our time. They steal our life and our life, like our life blood, really, right? So the more time you spend dwelling on that, the more they're stealing. You choose in this moment to end that. That's my tip for that. I'm sure there's plenty of other tips I could give you. I could do a lot on that, but can you please talk about why the victim feels ashamed and guilt after the breakup? Yes, because you've been conditioned and programmed to believe things are your fault, and you're the one you've been taught and groomed to be the one that maintains and supports the relationship on an emotional level. You've been the emotional ballast, the anchor, the thing that keeps the boat afloat, so to speak, right? You've been groomed and conditioned to be that, so when it doesn't work, right, it's all your fault. You've been gaslit. Everything's been projected onto you that it is your fault. A lot of times you'll see people will post in groups, or they'll talk about how they'll go back and forth in text or in emails after the discard or the breakup, and the narcissist will then flip the script from "I'm sorry, baby" to, or not even "I'm sorry," but "Yeah, what do you want?" Like the grumpy, quiet, or whatever, to absolutely attacking the character of that other person. That is partially why we feel guilt. We feel guilt because it could be anything from the way you were raised. It could be. It really depends. If you're talking about leaving a toxic parent, I talked about that yesterday. Which Jack and I will have some questions going forward about the the um, the binds that I talked about. I'm sorry, my brain is on gaslighting, and I can't do two things. Um, anyway, you've been groomed to take responsibility for the narcissist's emotional state. That's the main piece. Okay. Um, yes, and the trauma bond videos have a lot on that, and loyalty binds. Thank you. Oh my gosh, yeah, my brain. It's not wasted time. Look at all you've learned. There you go. Thank you. That's another point. You've learned so much. You've grown so much. You've seen parts of yourself that unfortunately were very painful to see, but there they are, and you can learn to heal. And as we heal from narcissistic abuse, we become much better people even than we would have had we not had it. Not that I want anyone to experience it in order to have that that opportunity, right? Because I don't. Okay. Okay, so let's keep going. How to we have something else here. Okay, how to not believe in the gaslighting. Okay, so say they're gaslighting you. A lot of times it happens in writing. Okay, it happens, you see it, especially if you have to like co-parent or parallel parent with one, or if it is a parent of yours and they live, they don't live with you, so you get more text than you do in-person conversations. it- you can do this with listening as well. It's a lot easier to do when you're reading it. Okay, so practice if you have texts with them and you have to stay in communication with them. Practice on those texts before you try it in action in person with your own ears, because it's a lot more of an attack when it's verbal. Okay, read that text or email or listen to what they're saying and identify the tactics as they're unfolding. So do not attach to the words as if they mean anything. Seriously, guys, this isn't personal. This is a manipulation. You're being manipulated. You're being manipulated into reaction. Don't let it happen. Just listen. Don't engage. If you know someone is toxic, stop engaging as if you're trying to have a relationship. You cannot have a relationship with someone who can't relate. And someone with no empathy can't relate to those of us who have it. They just can't. We can barely relate to them because, like, how many of you can understand legitimately they don't have empathy? I'm not talking about the inability or the difficulty in expressing empathy. A lot of people have that. A lot of people are perfectly non-toxic people and they have low levels of empathic expression. You know what I mean? Like, that's not a problem. The problem is zero empathy. They legitimately don't care about anyone but themselves and their ego, and they protect that. So why are we trying to relate? You can't. Okay. So stop relating and slow down. If it's in writing, slow down and reread it step by step and name the toxic pieces that you see. So, in other words, if I see a letter or a text from a narcissistic person and I'm helping someone to translate it, they'll say, translate this. I'll say, okay, what I see in the first sentence, and usually this is how it goes. And then you can read it for the formula, go back and read some of your own if you want, that have come toward you. The first paragraph is usually accusations, finger pointing, especially if it's a parallel parenting situation. That you do this and you do that, and how dare you this, and like all that's in the first part. Then the meat of the discussion is what they want, but what they want is buried in word salad. So you read that, a word salad. That's another form of gaslighting. Word salad, just talking about tangential things, things off topic, things semi-related, things just talking and talking and talking, and or saying the same thing over and over. Like, I can remember he used to say, you push and push and push, you push and push and push. And I thought, wait, I haven't said anything. How am I pushing? And I'd say, what? And if I even said, what do you mean? He'd say, see, you're pushing and pushing. So you see, they make things up and then it becomes realized because they set you up. So don't fall for that. All right. So read it. So then there's the word salad, and then maybe one sentence in there is what they want. And then they'll conclude with more accusations, and usually projecting those accusations into the future and the past. Okay. And so if you read it like that, you go, oh, all they really want is to know what time I'm coming. And then if you're going to reply and to not believe and not to fall into the gaslighting, you gray rock and you say, okay, I'll be there at 10. And you ignore the accusations, no matter how personal they get, No matter how accusatory it sounds, no matter how much you want to defend yourself, you just don't. You just answer the question you're required to answer because it's contractual or whatever it is. If you don't have to talk to them, you don't answer it at all, right? So, okay. Anyway, that's one way to deal with that. And that takes practice and it takes time and it's hard. It's not easy because you want to just have like peace. You're not gonna with these people. So, okay. Realize that you can't change them. Realize this is not about you. This is how they communicate. This is how they get their way. This is how they are. It's about them. You do not need to explain your truth because it is not what the conversation is about. And it is not what the narcissist is even talking about. They don't care about your truth. Okay. You don't need to explain it or defend it. It's not a conversation, it's a one-way dialogue meant to confuse you, to end the situation so the narcissist can get their way and go on with whatever it is they were going on with. Okay. Or get away with the lie or whatever it is. Remember that it is manipulation through twisted truths, and and then a narcissist does not have the capacity to be open to dialogue or conversation. Excuse me. Okay, so understanding that, if we could just understand that paragraph I just said, we wouldn't fall for gaslighting, right? We'd catch it, we'd stop it, we'd walk away. It's not worth it. There isn't. It feels like you want your emotional needs met, especially when it's a romantic relationship or a relationship with a parent, right? You feels like you just want to be heard, you just want to be validated, you want your side to matter, but I'm telling you guys, it doesn't, and it never did, and it won't, because they don't. That's not how they operate. Okay, so after all that, that's a heck of a lot of pushing aside and ignoring and trying to not engage with something that's really insidious and really like in your face and really emotionally charged, right? It's really hard to do that. And I know that. And I'm not saying do this, it's super easy. I'm saying this is a hard thing, but if you're going to be in contact with them, or if you're going to, this is the root of gray rocking, you guys. This is the magic of it. You don't want to live this way forever. It's when you have to deal with them. Okay. The piece that helps you is you add in some self-care. Affirm your truth to yourself silently. So if you're reading the text or listening to them go on and on and on and on and on with their stupid gaslighting, just in your head, you go, they're gaslighting. You do the thing, you identify it. Okay. But then after that, you go, you know what? I'm really the one that matters here. My feelings do matter. They are valid. And I know what they are. I don't need to listen to this nonsense. This is nonsense. Listen to them. And you separate yourself from them by doing that. Does that make sense? With a narcissist, we get enmeshed with their way, their thinking, pleasing them. Separate. Okay. Individuate from it. All right. So this is all basically gray rocking, like I said. The best answer is just don't reply if you can, right? Go no contact. But I'm talking about when we have to be in it, when we're being gaslit, say it's a boss and you can't leave, say it's whatever. There's plenty of situations where we cannot go no contact, right? Okay, so stop wishing for things to be different. I'm sorry, it's not gonna be. It is not going to be. We have to stop the hope that will change. We have to. I've been talking about this a lot in the Facebook group, but there is a trend out there of the reformed narcissist telling us how it is and how they can get better and how they can learn to communicate and how this and how that. I call bullshit on that. Okay. I don't know if I'm allowed to use that word here, but I am. Because first of all, they're out to get your views. They're out for it's sensationalism, you guys. That isn't true. There isn't. Could a person change? Maybe, but if it is that rare person, if they truly were caring about other people, they would not be filling you guys' heads with hope. Because you know what? That would be the rarest person that could do that. That would be like I was able to do it, so I know it's possible. Cool. Well, don't fill other people's heads with hope that this toxic person in their life might change and make them waste, as Belle said, more years of their life dealing with it infuriates me, and it's also very much very obvious. It's gaslighting, right? They're getting you to believe that there's something they're not, or that other people can be just like them, when I don't buy it. So watch yourselves out there, okay? It's a lot of info that is meant to help you, and then there's a lot of info that is feeding the egos of other people. So understand, my last thing here is that you are not alone, okay? People, this is my doggie. She wants out. I'm gonna lean over and let her out. There you go. There you go, girl. She's very polite, but still talking. Okay, so guys, you're not alone in this, and there is help out there if you need it. There are support groups. There is coaching. There is coaching groups. There is a Queen Being website that has all the information on all that stuff, as well as in the description of the video. But the website has quizzes and articles and work, like all kinds of stuff. There's so much information over there to help you. So head over there if you need it, okay? You like my straightforward approach. Well, this is the thing. We can't dance around this. And I know this hurts, and I would love to be, super squishy and like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I am, but we got to hear it just straight up, right? And face the truth so that we can move on, because I don't want anyone to be living in this situation personally. Let's see. Okay. Does anyone have any questions that I maybe have missed? I will scroll back my very best, but if you could please retype it, or if somebody could alert me to one if they saw one, please. Otherwise, I'm going to be done here for the day and go actually wake up. Started early today. Kind of fun. All right. How do I finally figure out who that person is? What do you mean, helpful mama? You've been codependent. How do I finally figure out who you are? Is that what you mean? Helpful mama, how do you figure out who you are? Let me know. Got lots of stuff here. If that's what you mean, discovering who you are is a process, and the question, who am I, is a good one. We should all have it all the time, because you know what? It's spending time with yourself. It is accepting the negative traits of yourself, so to speak, and working on them and discovering the ways that you work on them. That's a cool thing. Like, whoa, when I cope, I do this. And when I try to make a change, I do that. That's so basically, I think of it like trying to see yourself as if you are making a new friend. What would you be looking at? What would you be discovering? What would you be seeing? It's sitting back and enjoying your time with yourself, or not. Sometimes, you may discover, hey, as a person, I just don't like being by myself, and that's okay. But we gotta also be okay with it, right? So it's all kinds of that kind of discovery is how I see it, and time, and doing the thing. Like, there's some good suggestions here: exploring your interests, expressing your need to build the new you, all of that. Yeah. And remembering that you're not trying to get back to someone. So here's the thing: when you're recovering from this narcissistic influence in your life, we're not trying to get back to who we were before them. That isn't that isn't possible, okay? Because we have pain, we have wounds, we have scars, we have wisdom, we have understandings, we have new experiences of ourself, we have new experiences of what other people are and how other people, do you know what I mean? We learn to be discerning versus trusting of everyone. We learn to not trust, and then we learn to rebuild trust in humanity, right? And that is a whole process that changes you. And doesn't change you for the worse, it grows you up. And so you're not looking to get back to anyone, you're looking to become, right? Okay. Let's see. What are we saying here? It jumped. Loyalty binds. Keep going, Jack. I will talk about it. What are your questions on it? Or did I miss them? So again, I'm trying to distinguish between loyalty binds and the trauma bond. So they aren't the same. Do they overlap? They totally overlap. So the things I described in that video, the methods that loyalty binds are. So loyalty binds can happen. Anyone can create a loyalty bind in a child. Anyone. And we do, on accident. Okay. When a child feels like they cannot share their loyalties with other people. A classic example is the step parent situation. When a child cannot form a bond with the step parent, even though step parent is cool, they're nice, they're giving, they're trying really hard, they're not overstepping their boundaries, they're doing it all quote right. Okay. And that child struggles because they have loyalty to the other parent, to the, let's say it's a stepmom, to their mom, to their bio mom. All children should and do have loyalty to their mom, right? Well, I want to say all, most children, the majority. Um, the difference with that is a healthy bond, a healthy loyalty does not exclude other loyalties in their life. Does that make sense? Like they can have their special, perfect, amazing relationship with mom who's super cool, and they can like stepmom. It's not, and they don't see it as a lateral thing, right? It's not like, oh, you're my mom now. Oh, you're my mom now. There's no competition. There's no fighting. There's none of that stress over the kid. When you have loyalty binds, even without the other person the person creating it being toxic, it makes it so the child or the adult later on cannot form loyalties with other people because of the tie to the person who created the loyalty bind. So if you're doing it on accident, like watch the video because it has a lot of examples. There are way more, but it has a lot of examples of how they're created. It's simple things we do it, right? So say your uh partner, your ex is super toxic, and you hear about something they did, and all you do is go like that, or and you try to keep your mouth shut and you don't say anything, and then you smile and you fake and you fix it, right? And the kid sees that. That's enough to make a child go, "Oh my gosh, daddy's scary, mommy's scary." Right? They're right. Something's wrong with them. But then when they're with that person, the only way to be safe is to be loyal to them. And so does that make sense? And so it gets really confusing. And so when we find ourselves, sorry, I'm like leaning over, letting the dog in. When we find ourselves having done that with a child accidentally, the solution is just a conversation, to have conversations and say, I noticed that my frustration with your mom or dad has made me make faces and made me have reactions that is really not fair to you. I'm really sorry. And you alleviate the child's stress. A narcissist isn't going to do that. They love it. It creates the bond. So do you see what I'm saying? So that's different than the normal trauma bonding stuff of intermittent reinforcement. It is feeding them information versus the intermittent reinforcement that creates the trauma bond. Does that make sense? Okay. If not, I will say more. Yes, I always felt like my narcissistic mother was jealous of anyone in my life. She wanted full loyalty and attention. There it is, right? Full loyalty and attention. And if there's and it could be anyone, right? Anyone else, but especially when it's in a situation where the other partner remarries. It happens. It happens even, like I said, in non-toxic situations. So, which becomes toxic, unfortunately, to the child. So, okay. Let me see. Any more questions here? And I hope that answered that question, Jack. Um, am I missing anything? Did I miss anything, you guys? Anybody's question? It could be on any topic right now or whatever we're talking about. My ex broke up with me because he didn't contact me for 10 days, and I asked him if he was seeing someone else. Apparently, I asked him before he told me never to ask again, and I don't remember. Why can't you ask that? You know what I mean? Like, that's a legitimate question. Oy. Okay. Um, um, okay. I'm trying to understand because so much was my mother and her mother fighting over how to raise me. Hmm. I will have to watch and rewatch the replay. I tend to hyper focus on the chat. Oh, yeah, yeah. Watch the replay from try to watch it, Jack, from like a scientific aspect. Try not to get identify with it too much and see how it falls on you. See if you go, oh, That makes sense because blah, blah, blah. Like, that's just like, I mean, obviously personal, but not emotionally personal. You know what I'm saying? Try to hear it and see if that brings up other questions because you might find clarity there. What about when they go from being private on social media to going all out with the new person and oh my gosh, they're trying that's a Hoover, okay? It's a Hoover, it's throwing new supply in your face. Um, they're all out with the new supply because the new supply is a different person. Okay, they treat everybody differently based on who that other person is. So that they're chameleons, right? They groom the other person based on that other person's personality, right? And they are going to hurt that other person based on their personal vulnerabilities. So they will learn their vulnerabilities. So maybe your vulnerability is you really like to be recognized, not vulnerability in a bad way. What I mean is your your needs that then become your vulnerability. Excuse me. So maybe you really like to be a person who is seen as a couple to be able to be like free with being on social media together that to have the world know, oh, we're so happy, like, and that's not a bad thing, right? So maybe that's you. Maybe this other new person could could care less about that stuff, right? Or they do it, the other person does it in such a happy bubbly natural way that it hasn't been a problem yet. And so, and that narcissist knows it hurts you because they never did that for you. So it's a whole big mix of things. They're grooming them differently, but they're still grooming them. The other person has different needs and vulnerabilities. They'll still have theirs attacked and used. And they know it hurts you. It not only hurts you, it makes you think about them, and that's a Hoover. Okay. So it's a weird, like, covert sideline Hoover. All right. When narcissists triangulate your children towards you, it's so hurtful. How do you deal with that? Bonnie, say more. Oh, they are triangulating with your children. That's the parental alienation thing, and that is where those loyalty binds that I was talking about come into play. So if you haven't seen that one, go watch it. And what you can, if they're small enough children, if they're not adult children, you talk to them about your side of, how do I explain this? I would have to know the situation to give an exact answer on that, and because I'm gonna go off in a direction that isn't what you're asking otherwise. Um, in my experience, it's a matter of faith and trust, and that your kids will get their own freedom and make up their own minds, truth and not truth. They're grown. Okay, yeah. See, it's hard when they're grown. It really is. And this is so, Bonnie. You get your own life. You focus on your own well-being, and you keep the door open. There's not if you the more you fight and resist, the more you look like you're hysterical, you're a problem, you're too sensitive, you're emotional, you're attacking dad, right? And they won't see it because see, he's not abusing them in the same way, right? He is in this way, which is manipulative, but they can't see it because it's just like we were saying on Angie's stream earlier, like the golden child can't see it, they can't see it the same way because they're not getting that end of the narcissist. They think, well, they have a good side too. And I get that good side. So why would I, you know what I mean? So it doesn't make sense. And so you keep the door open. You do what feels right for you without putting any shame, blame, or guilt on your kids. So asking your kids something like, why is it that you think it's okay to hurt me like that? Might be a bit much in the situation because they're already pulled away. But if you say, "Hey, honey, happy birthday. I'm thinking of you. I'm here if you want to talk ever." How's that hurting anything, right? And it's hurtful to you because you may not get what you need from it, but at least you're keeping the door open. It's kind of the only thing I can think of. It's you don't want to battle for that control. Yeah, you don't fight for control. Keep your door open, hope that in time they will eventually get out of the web of lies. And they will. One of them will, if there's more than one, because that narcissist, when they stop making you the bad guy, will turn on one of the kids. Or they already have, and the kid just doesn't know how the adult doesn't know how to see their way through yet. This takes time, and the narcissistic family system is somebody described it as a cult, right? It takes deprogramming. It takes really being able to see what's going on and pulling yourself out of it and going through a heck of a lot of guilt and shame while you do it. So it's tricky, hard work. So you can feel for your kids there that they're in the middle of that, right? But I'm sorry. That's about all I got for that one. Yeah, be the parent you know you should be, and they will see just the way you did. Yeah, exactly. You just, if you're happy and enjoying your life, you're much more magnetic than when you're sad. And, if they're around you and they're like, well, mom's always sad and miserable, they don't have time, especially if they're under 40, right? They don't have time in their emotional life to be caretaking us. And if you're caretaking yourself and you're being happy and joyful and I mean, not fake, but you know what I mean? If you're legitimately like, well, my life is good. I really wish you guys were in it, but my life is good. And I'm doing my thing. And it's much more magnetic than someone who's sad, right? And that may attract them as well, because then they don't have to feel guilty. I'm sure they feel guilt. Anyway, I'm talking too much. Anything else, you guys? Did I miss anything? There were lots of different questions here. Did I miss anything? Oh, we got long today. Okay, I'm gonna end here, I think, unless there is something pressing that anyone needs. Um, okay. Okay, I guess we'll end here. So I will see you guys next week sometime. Um, Hopefully here 1 or 2 times live, and then over with Angie Friday and potentially Tuesday if that whatever's needed. We'll be around. And we'll see you then. Take care. If you've not hit subscribe, please do so. Hit the thumbs up. If you have any questions after watching this, please send me a note in the comments, and I try to reply to them as much as I can. And if you need help with anything, there is one-on-one coaching available. All the info is in the description. And there's also group coaching available. We are coming up on the first of the month here, and I always like to announce it that it is almost the first of the month. You can start anytime, but the first of the month is that nice clean moment of starting at the first of the month, right? So if you need it, it's there. We cover everything, everything. I mean, half the times in group, people will join for leaving a toxic partner and end up staying for dealing with the fact that they just realized they had a toxic parent, or knowing they had a toxic parent but finally ready to face it, or you know what I mean. So we go through any kind of narcissistic anything that you've experienced, whether it be a boss, a partner, a parent, whatever. It's all over there. So, and men and women are both welcome. So there we go. I will talk to you guys later. You take care. Bye bye. Have a good weekend.